everybody. My name is Alyse Price-Tobler and I am speaking to you from Sydney, Australia today. And I would just like to thank Harmeet and his colleagues for inviting me yet again to speak at this very important seminar on child protection. I have a life experience of separation, abduction and reunification, as I am an adult child of severe parental alienation. But I have come through a lot, and I am studying and designing a treatment protocol for mental health practitioners who work with adults and adult survivors of parental alienation within my PhD at the University of Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. So I have quite a bit of knowledge about parental alienation, and to top it all off, I'm also a clinical psychotherapist who works daily within this field. I specialise in severe and persistent mental illness and disabilities, and parental alienation clients are at the core of my work and my heart. The field that I work in is an exploratory field right now. The paths leading me to this junction right now have been many, long and interwoven. My experience as a child of severe parental alienation and abduction, I'm actually trying to turn into a positive one from a pretty agonizing experience. PA is a theme that runs constantly in the background as a track in the back of my life. I've walked through a space of a child of severe psychological abuse and neglect, sitting as a patient in front of mental health practitioners who did not understand me, who knew nothing about PA, and I would often feel very abandoned, to walking through to find someone at age 28. I found somebody with the skills and help that I needed to help me to reunite with my father. This is a pivotal moment in my life. At 30, I reunited back with my father after some 20 plus years. So having somebody help me in that space was crucial. And this is where my life is now focusing on working in this space for the adolescent and adult children of severe parental alienation. But when they get to where I was, and yeah. Being separated from a father that you love, I want to say to everyone out there, it's agonizing. Being taken from somebody that you love, including your grandparents, your cousins, your aunts, uncles, everybody, and not being able to see them anymore, and then being poisoned against them. I have had to live with the aftermath of that dreadful behaviour to this day. I'm still living with it every single day. And I want to say, particularly to people who think that it's okay to not allow children to not see their other biological parent, as long as they're safe and loving, of course, and also not see their cousins and grandparents, you need to stop doing this, because it is not your right to withhold us. We have a human right to know who the other side of our family are, especially if we're very familiar with them and love them already. It is not your right who we can and can't see. We as children and adult children demand equal time with both parents, and we don't want to be told terrible things about them anymore. You need to stop doing that right now. Because 1, we remember it. 2, we will bring it up with you later on when we're older and we have more of a voice. 3, you keep forgetting a lot of the time that we're children and we grow up. And 4, We do not want to be passing this down to the generations that are coming, because parental alienation is modeled to us, and we can become alienators ourselves. And proper treatment protocols will look at stopping this intergenerational cycle of trauma and violence right now. And this is my message to the alienators at this point. You need to stop what you're doing. And for the targeted parents out there, I want you to know that I see you, I hear you, your messages are getting through to the children. If my father had run all of the kilometres that Ashra ran the other day in honour of his children and stopping parental alienation, and I grew up and I knew about that, I would be so proud when I grew up, and I would feel so loved. And I want to say to all of those who are putting stickers on your buses and getting together and speaking out against parental alienation, it's getting out there. Keep going, keep doing it. The children are hearing it. I speak to the adult children, I speak to the adolescents. They see you, they know what you're doing. This message of hope, get louder. Keep going, get educated. This is my message to you. From the kids that I research as adults now, their messages are very important to you. And I want to read some of them to you now. So here's my folder of transcriptions from my adult children in my research that I'm interviewing, because for my PhD I've interviewed about 18 adult children of parental alienation and their experiences, and then I've also interviewed about 15 mental health practitioners who work with this cohort, and I'm going to cross the information over. So some of the information that's coming out from some of these adult clients are here. Ever since I was not allowed to see my dad or his family anymore, I missed them every day of my life. I grew up knowing that something was very wrong, but I had no voice to do anything about it. That's just one of them. Here's another one. So growing up with a parent who was, as I've now grown to understand, having a lot of cluster B traits and a persecution and delusional complex around their ex-husband, this was a terrible, terrible place for me. I grew up weaponized, and I had no defense in my arsenal. I'm not a threat. I had no voice, but I was a child who only knew what I was being told. But in my heart, I knew that my parent, my other parent that I missed so deeply, loved me, because I remembered so many things that we had done together when I was smaller. That's just two sentences from a whole bunch of research here and data collection that I have on my adult survivors. The message here is, don't give up. Even if these kids or teenagers cannot speak to you, it is not, don't take it personally is what I'm saying, because sometimes the world at home is so awful, they cannot risk talking to you. And emotionally, it's very difficult for us to open up our hearts when we're in a space where we could be attacked by the person if we don't align with them. So we sit in a very dark space, and we just hope and pray that you are not going to leave or go too far or forget about us. So keep putting the messages through to us. We can see them. Sometimes they'll get through to us. Put money away for us in a bank account for when we get older. Everything you do will come back. That's the way the universe works. So you've got to hold on to hope. A lot of the time we're controlled and used as a regulating object. What I'm also saying is, alienating parents, if you are doing these behaviours, go and get yourself some help. It is not good enough You cannot just take a child from another parent and think that we are going to be happy about that, because we won't be when we're older. So enough about that. But what I want to do next is I want to speak to the mental health practitioners who are potentially going to be working with the adolescents and adult children when they step forward, but mainly the adolescents, because we need to prepare for when our alienated children step forward and ask for help. There's going to be a tidal wave of people coming forward, and our practitioners, the ones that I have sat in front of over the years, have not been prepared. They do not understand us. And it is vital that all practitioners really get on board and start looking towards the future in case we show up in front of you. At this point, there is no treatment protocol for working with us. So I'm here today to talk a couple of minutes about this, because the treatment and comprehensive repair that goes into working with us is quite extensive. And what we expect from mental health practitioners who work with us is that we want you to have a really expensive knowledge of personality pathology. That's Beck's work. Personality disorders. We want you to know about Kernberg. We want you to know about borderline conditions and pathological narcissism. We want you to know about Milan's work. We want you to understand about Bowlby and attachment, family systems, which is Venusian's work, Bowen and family therapy, Teidelman and emotional cut-offs, and Haley's work with problem solving, Chloe Madonis's work as well, and strategic family therapies. We have to cover as practitioners treatment boundaries. We also have to have an extensive knowledge of child sexual abuse, transgenital transformation of the physical systems. We need to know about active incest, sibling incest, sadism. We need to know about treatment focusing on suicidal and or homicidal behaviours, because some of my clients are in jail through foster care and they are struggling very badly. And at the heart of it is often parental alienation. And we also need to be very, very well versed in treatment for substance and alcohol abuse, addictive behaviours, self-harm. If we don't, we need to surround ourselves with clinicians who do, so that we can collaborate and refer to them. And we can holistically work with these teenagers and adult survivors of alienation, so that we can change the intergenerational trauma and the patterns that are existing within us. And the other thing that's really important is we need to look at disordered mourning, because this is something that adult children and children experience, and it is very, very tricky. But we need to be blending the subtlety of clinical observation and the rigour of clinical experimentation. But at the heart of all of our treatments must be love, the Rogerian model, unconditional positive regard. We need to be looking at how does PA affect our clients' bodies. This is van der Kolk's work, and sometimes I'll bring in some Gestalt work, humanistic existential model, breach and repair sequencing. The other thing we need to be very aware of is the neuroscience and the rewiring of the anxious brain for the client who comes in. And we'll need to look at emotional focus therapy, schema therapy, Norman Deutsch's work. We have to have good colleagues to refer to who have an extensive knowledge of PA. Some of our other clients might also present not only with PA at the core, but also eating disorders. We have adolescents presenting with all sorts of mental health challenges who also we may also have clients with mental illness. So they may be also presenting with a disability or a combination. Some may have dissociative identity disorder. I often see adults who are still in enmeshment with their adult alienating parent as well, who are they're very distressed and don't know who they are often. We also have parents who've presented and have cut off all ties to absolutely everybody, and they can be quite emotionally unavailable to everybody. So often their relationships will be non-existent around them. And this is a very painful place to work for a clinician, and we do work with a lot of people who are greatly suffering, and most of the time at the heart of it, as I said, is parental alienation. I see PA affecting children right through to adults who are quite advanced in age. And one of the adults that I speak to is Patricia Riley. She's written a book called The Serpent Child about her experience. She's an adult survivor of moderate parental alienation, they're her words. And just even that long ago, parental alienation was around. And for the life of me, I don't understand why we're still dealing with it and fighting about it on so many fronts. It's such a dark energy. This is why I've got so many lights always around me, because we really need to bring in the light, to bring in the hope. And once I move through my PhD and we start to develop the clinical trials at my university, I'm really hoping and praying that for the people who've experienced PA, when they come forward, we will know exactly what to do with them and how to help them. I'm doing this work for the generations that are coming through, especially in my family, because I'm seeing alienating behaviours in cousins and grandparents and people who just are out in society all the time, who think that these conversations about denigrating another person or picking sides when people are getting divorced is okay. But I'm here to tell you, don't do it. Don't get involved. You don't know both sides of the story. And you really need to be putting the child first. Do not align with people. You need to align with the child. You need to align and be the voice of the child. The children need to be hearing for you. Advocate for the children. And education. Education of our school teachers so that they can see it. Education of parents. Education of people who are becoming divorced. Education of PA in courts, especially with people who are working with these parents. The other thing I want to talk just for a couple of minutes here today is attachment disturbances in the adults. Now, I'm reading a book on attachment disturbances by Brown and Elliott at the moment. There's a chapter in here on the role of the father. And the attachment research focus is placed on the role of, a lot of the time it's placed on the infant and the role of the mother. I just want to read out this chapter to you on the role of the father. So, although much attachment research focus was placed on the relationship between the infant and his mother, his or her mother, Main and Weston 1981 conducted a comparative study of toddler attachment to both mothers and fathers using the SS. They found comparable rates of secure and insecure attachment to both mothers and fathers, but there was no significant correlation between the two. A toddler could show secure attachment towards one parent, but not to another. Another meta-analysis of 8 studies on infant-father attachment found a small but significant effect size regarding paternal sensitivity associated with secure attachment, an effect size smaller than maternal sensitivity as associated with secure attachment. An important factor pertaining to fathers as secure attachment figures is that many fathers are often less involved with their babies than their mother. However, when this is not the case and the fathers are actively involved with their babies in positive ways, fathers easily become secure attachment figures. There is some research suggesting that the father's role in secure attachment may be different from that of the mother, with the mother's role being more focused on the infant's proximity and contact-seeking behaviour, and the father's role being more focused on encouraging exploratory behaviour. The father's role in the quality of toddler play has consistently been found to be associated with father-child secure attachment. Howes, 1999, summarised the research data, saying, fathers who express more positive feelings about their infants and their role as parents and who assign high priority to time spent with the infants have more secure infants. Now, I want to say this to the fathers out there. You are highly important in our development. You are highly important within our secure attachment bonds. This is a recent book, this one. And this information is important. Not having you around creates huge problems for us when we're older. And I'm here to tell you, please, please keep fighting. Because I know a lot of men are really, really struggling. And women, but it's really a lot more men at this point that I'm seeing. And this whole situation really needs to stop, this parental alienation situation. And there's a lot of people out there who just don't know how to stop it. But we've got to keep using our voices and stand up and just keep the education message going and sending out love to our children. Even if you cannot do this on a physical level, you can do this on a spiritual level. We really need to be asking for guidance and asking for help. We need to be standing up. We need to keep spreading the message of hope. We need to keep talking. We need to get on all the social platforms. We need to keep going. The fastest way through hell is to keep walking. And PA is living hell. In my lifetime, I want it to be over, but I don't know that it's going to be. I'm working as hard as I can on this treatment protocol, and it is very difficult work because it involves my soul and my heart. It suffers a lot within this space, and it's just been over a year since I've lost my dad as well, so I've been doing my PhD and get through this huge circumstance of grief and loss about my father as well, who I loved very dearly. But please send out messages. Please keep talking. Please try and get to the children. Please write letters you can give to them later. Put money in a savings account for them if you think your money's not getting to them. They will come forward later on, and when they do, you will have a big story to tell them about how loved they were and are, and how much you miss them. And I'm telling you now, when an adolescent child or adult child comes through, their abandonment wound is going to be big, and I want you to be ready to feel it for them and say, I tried this hard for them, I tried this, I tried to get to you. When my dad and I had this conversation when we reunited, he told me all of the different times that he tried to get to me and find me, and he couldn't, and he just had to get on with his life and wait and hope that I would come back to him, in which I did. And I've had 25 years with my dad. And it would be wonderful if you could go and have a look on my Twitter account at the video that my father and I have made before he died. The interview with him, with Dawn McCarty from over in Florida. She interviewed what it was like for my dad after we'd been taken from him. and how he had to get on with his life right up to reunification. I've got another 2 videos coming out from that series. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for fighting on behalf of the adolescent and adult children. And please, mental health practitioners, get ready for when we show up. Thank you so much for listening. Love and light to you all. My name's Alyse Price-Tobler, and I'll end it here. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.